Hello, I'm Adam Kozort, and this is your Pearl of Truth for today. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 6 and 7, the Apostle Paul writes, "From which some, having strayed, have turned aside to idle talk, desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say nor the things which they affirm." Now, to understand what it is that he's talking about, you actually have to go back to verses 3 through 5. Where he's talking about the command that he gave Timothy to teach no other doctrine and for nobody else to teach any other doctrine than the doctrine of Christ. And that the commandments that he is giving him in verses 3 and 4 are ones that are made out of love, out of the desire for somebody else's best interest that comes from a pure heart, from a good conscience, and from a sincere faith. But he says some have not retained that love. Some have not retained that focus on the doctrine of Christ. And so he uses a couple of terms here that are very interesting. He says in verse 6 that some have strayed. The word there in the original language carries with it the idea of to miss the mark or to fall off from. He also says that they have turned aside. The picture here, if we were to give it a modern parallel, would be of somebody who was driving down the interstate heading to a particular location, and along the way they take an exit that they were not supposed to take. They have turned aside. They have strayed from the path. They were there at one point, but now they're going a different direction. Paul says that some have fallen away, they have fallen aside, they have strayed from the path into idle talk. And he says it's because they have desired to be teachers of the law, but they don't understand what they say or what they affirm. There's a great danger in an individual trying to speak for God and yet not knowing what it is that God has said, or not having taken the time to find out. And yet we have many people in our world today who do exactly that. They're more than happy to tell you what the Bible says, but they don't know themselves. They're more than happy to tell you what God thinks or what God will accept or what it is that God will say about a matter when they've not taken the time to ask Him by means of His Word. We've got to be careful that we do not turn aside. But it's not just people out in the world. It can happen with people in the church as well. When you get into questions of what is right and what is wrong, we better take the time to examine what God said first and not just assume that we know or assume that God's going to agree with what we already think. Paul says in his day there were some that had turned aside into idle talk, who were saying that they spoke for God when they weren't. We need to be careful. We need to ensure that we have asked God by means of His Word what it is He wants us to do and the directions that He wants us to go. Otherwise, we can find ourselves in the same boat. Have a great day, and I hope you'll take with you this pearl of truth.